is a podcast that we are recording. Welcome to this podcast, where we review films that should not be seen by man. Hi.
I am eternal. The eternal is me, and the movie just keeps on going. And I do not know how long I can take this anymore.
This is a black hole. A black hole of experience. A black hole of the senses. This is the film that should not be seen. This is the film that we saw. This is the film that saw us. And it will never let us go again. This is the Treasure Planet.
When I look out my window, many sights to see. When I look in my window, so many different people to be, that it's strange, so strange. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every stitch. Oh, must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch. Oh, must be the season of the witch.
Tell me what I just watched, Madhog.
I was hoping you could tell me what I just watched, if I'm being honest.
Okay, you cannot do this to me because you recommended the movie, you sent it to me, and I watched it, and boom, I am confused.
Oh, you're confused.
I
You're
am
confused.
bewildered.
You are bewildered. Well, good for you for being
am-
bewildered.
I am flabbergasted, bamboozled by this movie.
Yes, I am also all of those fancy adjectives. And to make matters worse, I'm also discombobulated,
Oh god.
aggravated, confounded, and lost.
Please do not tell me this was actually officially sold.
This was released theatrically.
This was released theatrically?
This was released theatrically.
Ah! Oh no!
This is a film. This is a thing that I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to start this review. Really, all I had was that creepy introduction that makes no sense out of context, and then I am done.
Yeah, because oh boy, because that's the very first thing you hear. Well, before you see the movie properly.
Oh, what a great way to start, too. Not understanding a single thing you're saying because you have to whisper it. Great voiceover.
To be honest, I could barely hear him, the guy who's voice acting the character, which we will come to know the name of soon in this movie.
Okay, this film. Okay, I guess we should provide some background.
Please provide background and context, because I had no time to research this movie.
Oh, well, listen. We could have just started this talking about the film straight away, not even addressing who made it and when it was made and why it exists in the first place. The last question of which is still unanswered. But you know what? Actually finding information about this film and who's responsible for this was surprisingly easy, all things considered.
Well, that's good.
So, The Treasure Planet, based off the novel by Robert Louis Stevenson, is a Bulgarian science fiction animated feature, once again released theatrically in 1982. Directed by Rumen Petkov, who, surprisingly, actually had a very rich and prolific career in the animation industry. He started off as a figure of importance in the Bulgarian scene. He was also a comic artist. He created a comic series titled Choco the Stork and Boko the Frog. Right. He was one of the most influential figures in Bulgaria when it comes to his craft.
So, have you experienced any of his other work then, or seen it?
Well, here's the funny part about that, because it turns out that we've all universally experienced his works in one way or the other. Mr. Rumen Petkov worked on a series of animations and animated series, such as Flash Beagle, as in
Eagle.
It's Flash Beagle, Charlie Brown, 1984.
Oh, right.
He was an additional animator. Happy New Year, Charlie Brown, 1986, as a proper animator. Snoopy the Musical, 1988. Why
Right.
Charlie Brown, Why, 1990. You're in the Super Bowl, Charlie Brown, 1994. It was my best birthday ever, Charlie Brown, from 1997. Basically, all the Peanuts specials.
So he
worked
did
on
all the
those
Peanut specials.
since Flash Beagle, that is. Oh, and in the year 2000, we had Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, where he was a sheet timer.
I know that movie exists.
This is the cake right here. He was an animator and timing director for Tom and Jerry Blast Off to Mars 2005.
Oh, I've seen that.
And he was the animation director for Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie from 2017.
What?
Yes, Rumen Petkov. The guy responsible for The Treasure Planet, which is the film we just watched, outstandingly, amazingly, against all odds, went on to have one of the most prolific careers that a Bulgarian animator could realistically have.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
This is
but wait, there's more. Here are
There's
the
more?
animated series, the animated television series he worked on. Garfield and Friends from 1991 to 1992.
right.
Ah! Real Monsters from 1994 to 1997. Dexter's Laboratory, 1996 to 2003. Duckman, 1994 through 1997. Johnny Bravo, 1997 to 2004. Cow and Chicken, 97 to 99. I Am Weasel, 97 to 2000. The Powerpuff Girls, 98 to 2005. Mike, Lou and Og, 99 to 2000. And the new Woody Woodpecker Show, 1999 to 2002.
How?
I don't have the answers
He's,
for that.
he is this guy. I mean, did we just watch like his very first attempt at a movie? Is that what this is? And then he
Probably
just
was
improved
the very
from there?
first attempt for many people who worked on that. So, if we have to take a positive note out of this experience, is that he became a much better animator afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is like equal to, you know, I can see the government now basically treating this movie like as if like they're the parents putting their child's first attempt of a drawing onto the fridge, but the fridge is like the theatrical movie theater.
Okay?
So you this analogy was going somewhere.
I have plenty of incredulous analogies off the top of my head to describe this film, because it's otherwise a fairly indescribable experience all through and through.
Yes.
Sometimes, in the course of a man's life, it might happen if, for barely a moment, to come across such an experience, such a profoundly extraneous, alienating experience, something that goes against everything you thought you knew about reality and the world you inhabit. Something that it is so against everything you stand for as a living being made of carbon that it feels wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong in pretty much every single area. This film, this animated feature, feels like that experience. It feels like I am trapped in a novel by Douglas Adams while I am smoking LSD, which is not supposed to be smoken, but you're smoking it anyway, you're doing it wrong. And doing it wrong is the leitmotif about this film, because every single element about it is wrong. The story, the animation, the characters, the backgrounds, the foregrounds, the editing, the music, the sound effects, the voice work, the models, the in-betweens, everything, every single thing is so antithetic to
everything that ever existed?
Yes, to the way we experience art, the way we experience cinema, what they teach us about cinema. I would like to add that I almost respect it as an anti-artistic statement, a postmodern anti-artistic statement about cinema. It's a masterpiece. As a film to watch, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Oh, my head.
Yeah. Oh boy, this film.
This film. Oh, why? Oh, I thought it was such a good idea to watch this film. I wish I would not have watched it alone. This could not. This.
Well,
as soon as it started, within the first minute, I was questioning my entire life choices. I was mouth agape, shocked beyond belief at what I was witnessing. Not even Raggedy Ann and Andy, a musical adventure, had me so confounded as this film did. It seems like I am abusing the English language and indulging in too many hyperboles, but there is no proper way to convey to you, people listening to this podcast, just how bizarre this venture was.
Yes, incredibly was. Oh boy.
And I guess we're going to try and
recount our experience.
Yes, we are going to try and recount our experience point by point, or at least try to do so, because I've only watched this film a few hours ago, and already there is a unfocused blur effect where my memory of this film is supposed to be. Much like there are several blur effects where objects in the film are supposed to show up.
Oh, yes.
Yikes. Yikes indeed. Yikes on motorbikes. In space.
So yeah, so starting this movie off, right?
Oh, by the way, in
Yes.
case we didn't make it abundantly obvious, this is not the Disney's Treasure Planet.
I was actually planning on saying as a joke that Disney's Treasure Planet looks very different compared to when I
Yes,
last saw
isn't
it.
it so weird that there was a Treasure Planet before Disney made one? It's
Yes.
such a bizarre notion, and they're both pretty much based off the same source material. They are wacky adaptations of Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island novel.
Yeah, I think I'd watch the Disney version and appreciate that one a lot more.
You know what? We might just review that next time to cleanse our palate.
Well, I still remember it, so I don't really need to rewatch it.
Well, I need to rewatch it because it's been several decades
Yeah.
since I watched it. Decades? What am I saying? It's not that old.
Right.
Right.
Yet.
Okay. Right. So, oh god, I'm going to die. I'm dead. There.
No, we're not.
Oh no,
dying.
this film has given me the black spot. I'm dead. The black spot. I cannot. How do I even begin this? Okay, so have you watched Disney's Black Hole?
I'm trying to remember what Disney's Black Hole was,
You know,
actually.
that ending sequence when they all enter the black hole and it's trippy and psychedelic and completely out there? I'm saying this because the very beginning of this film made me instantly think of Disney's Black Hole.
Not even 1 second passes, and you're already questioning if you're high.
The weird choice of soundtrack, which I guess it's meant to sound alien and weird, does not help in that regard.
The visuals don't help either.
The visuals is a generous way of putting them, because what am I even looking at? What is this abomination by which my eyes are drawn towards? Can you help me describe what is it that I am looking at the very beginning? Because I know I hear a whispering voiceover
that's trying to explain what the premise of the film is, but it is so quiet, and all the echoing effect does not help in allowing me to understand what's being said. So it's already a bad way to start. Thank you for that.
Yeah, seriously, the movie actually starts with strange visuals and a guy whispering into your
ears.
Ears. That's if you're wearing headphones, but still.
There is this annoying echo chamber effect, which does not allow me to really grasp or glean anything from what's been said. Something about being lost in space and recounting the past events that led him to the position he's in right now. But other than that, I didn't get much about it.
No,
and
I didn't
it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all if during that entire monologue he actually introduced what the theme of the film was, as opposed to when I actually found out what the theme was right at the end. More on that later.
Yeah, because, like I said, the beginning, I could not hear him much because of how bad his sound audio quality was.
Okay, but that is the sound quality. That is in regards to the sound quality. But what exactly is being shown to us?
Oh my gosh, it's like...
Let's see, there is a still image of
the character who's talking at one point.
Yes, frozen in time and space, apparently, I guess.
There's a lot of effects going on.
Yes, a lot of practical effects. I guess somebody was really messing up with the multiplane camera that they had, which I had to assume was either a very sloppy, half-broken multiplane camera, or they did not know how to use it, and considering some of the more glaring animation errors I've seen later on, I'm leaning towards the latter option.
Oh boy. And it's like all I remember from the intro of this movie is just the visual madness on show that basically hinted to me what these people were on while making this entire film. Because at one point, I swear that the visuals changed into mushrooms.
I
Meaning-
did not notice the mushrooms, but then again, my attention was pulled apart constantly during that introduction. So
There was also a cat lion thing that opened its mouth to reveal something else.
okay, so this film is starting off by putting its best foot forward, obviously.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Indeed. I like that noise you just made. You sounded like a hurt kitten.
I have no idea what I made, but still.
Oh.
The whole beginning bit might as well be considered a pointless endeavor because the movie doesn't truly start until after the mess.
Yes, because like I said,
This is supposed to be a recount of past events, which means that when the film properly starts,
then we have the main character actually speaking at a normal volume voice.
Yeah, and he's understandable, thankfully.
Yes, so most of this film takes place in the past compared to the present, whenever or whatever might be.
Yeah.
So we are on this weird mechanical planet that I guess it's supposed to be Earth, and something weird and suspicious is going on with a couple of metallic spheres intercoursing with one another.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that until now.
They seemingly reveal a bunch of tentacles and they connect each other's two said tentacles, and I think they're having sex with
Yeah,
one
because-
another.
Yeah, because they're sending something between each other, and then suddenly the little one gives birth to an even bigger one somehow through the same tentacle wiring. It decides.
Why?
I mean, there's talking going on during this, but
Yes.
I'm too busy being distracted by what's going on with this.
Yes, speaking of distractions, we are introduced to the first two characters, including the main character, as they talk to each other, and the film keeps cutting to that scene of metallic intercourse constantly, ever so often. It's so... Is this supposed to be a commentary about technology and the unchecked dangers of progress? Because now the machines are self-reproducing and they have substituted the human race? Is this trying to be cyberpunk? Is this trying to be Stanley Kubrick? Is this trying to be a slapstick comedy? Or rather, is it trying to be all three at once? Because I can assure you, it's trying to be.
I thought you were going to say none of it's working.
Well, that's underlined.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the first two characters of the film properly appear, and oh gosh!
Oh gosh, yes.
Oh no!
We're introduced to Philippe, I think they called him.
Philip, yes.
Yeah,
and also that other guy,
Yeah, the
Billy
guy-
Bones.
Yeah, Billy Bones, who is
You will never get them up, Black Dog!
he's in this really weird wheelchair
His
contraption.
arms his arms are supposed to be at the helm of the wheelchair, but they look like they are broken. In fact, all of the characters, all of the models, all of them, they are utterly broken beyond belief. I have never seen such completely wrong and wrong-headed character design in all of my life. Not in an animated feature that was released theatrically, I remind you.
Yeah,
This is
like,
just...
even
it's scary.
even for 1982.
No, that's not an excuse. Son of the White Mare was released 2 years prior to this in Hungary.
Yes.
It looked gorgeous.
Yeah,
It was still a complete mess of a film that's almost impossible to comprehend, but it looked fine. I guess that's what I'm trying to get.
And that's what I'm saying, that the quality of this is so low compared to what was released in 1982.
It's not even that it's low, it's just that it is so baffling. It's not just bad character design, it's not just bad animation, it's something more and something less at the same time.
They did such a...
We are failing to find the words to describe this.
It's like the entire movie was made in such a shoddy way that it becomes enlightened somehow.
Okay, so these characters, the way they
Yes.
move, the way they are presented, they look like as if they were having a seizure and a stroke at the same time.
Yeah.
Or
because
maybe the animators were. I don't know.
the movie's visuals showed us what they were on. They were on shrooms, obviously.
No! Shrooms are supposed to enhance their creativity, not unlock their nega skills. When they talk, when they move, their arms and legs look broken, their jaw is dislocated from the rest of their skull, and it goes into all directions at once. And yet, those eyes are so consistently droopy and unblinking, and they never look at each other when they are talking to each other. These characters don't look each other in the eyes, not even a single time, not even by accident. And that's just the peak of the iceberg, because then we see them walk, and we see them jump, and we see them being busy in quote-unquote action scenes.
And and all the contortions.
The contortions, the twisting, the poorly timed attempts at slapstick comedy. Oh gosh, they tried to do slapstick in this.
I should reiterate that basically there's a plot going on in this movie.
I guess there is, but we don't get to it up until we get this entire scene with Black Dog and Billy Bones.
Well,
so, if you have a passing knowledge of the original novel, this film will not help you that much.
Oh boy. Because Philip was talking to this Bones guy.
Which he knows, because, the protagonist of the novel knew a pirate who was frequenting his mother's locale at the time. But there is no establishing of what the relationship is. There is no contextualizing what
we don't need to know that.
Their dynamic is. They just know each other, and that's that.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we need to know. That they know each other, and then that's that.
Also, apparently Billy Bones is a robot. And
yes.
There are robots, or bio-robots, if you will, in this film, but the only way to distinguish them from the so-called human characters is a big on-the-nose R that they have plastered on their chests.
Yeah. The weird thing about this...
the weird thing about this! Okay, let me know what the weird thing is.
Okay, so... The funny thing about this whole thing is where Philip and Bones are talking to each other, it's a back and forth that feels like it doesn't lead to anywhere until he mentions a map. And then he's like, what map? I don't know any map. There's no map. No map exists.
Yes, and the best part is that apparently we are informed by Philip's voice that Billy Bones apparently up and disappeared, but the film had already cut away from that, so we did not see Billy Bones going away from Philip until we see Billy Bones alone in a completely different area, and there is no transition, there is no progressing, visual or otherwise. We are just there now.
Can we talk about the dubbing, actually, of this? Because I'm surprised this was even dubbed in English, to be honest.
I am surprised as well, given that they left the completely unprompted musical number later on in the original language of Bulgarian.
Yes, that's really weird, isn't it?
So, the voice work is Speed Racer levels.
Yeah, everyone talks really fast.
At the time of Speed Racer, episodes of an anime were made before voice actors would even record their lines, which means the original voice actors were obligated to talk really fast to match the lip syncing, the very simple lip syncing of the characters. That was made even worse by the English localization because they had to voice over an already bizarrely dubbed episode. In order to match the very fast lip syncing, they had to talk really fast. And that's exactly what happens in this film. They all talk really fast in a pointless, failing attempt to match the lip syncing, except they cannot hope to do that because there is no such a thing as a lip movement in this film. There is just a dislocated jaw that goes into every single direction as a character attempts to speak.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it, yeah.
Oh, that said, the dub is gloriously cheesy.
It is so bad, it's good.
You'll never get them up, Black Dog! Give me them up, Billy! You'll never get them up!
Oh, before they even meet, oh gosh. Poor Billy Bones gets molested by a ship himself.
Yes, that was so unnecessary.
I don't know how to describe it. It's like he's getting lifted, he's getting fondled by tentacles at one point, I swear.
He's getting squashed by heavy objects, I guess.
Yeah, and
I know Billy Bones dies in the novel, so I thought this was it. He was going to die, but no. We have about 5 minutes of a pointless back and forth between Billy Bones and Black Dog.
I like how during that whole bit where he's getting messed around by a ship at first, that you can hear his voice actor go like, no, oh. So what, is Yano? No! And then we get introduced to
Black Dog! Black Dog!
Yeah, and apparently they're old friends, apparently.
In the book, they were part of the same crew, the Flint the Pirate crew, that is.
Yeah.
They follow pretty much the general plot line in this film as well. There is a treasure to find, not on Treasure Island, but on Treasure Planet, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, so the interaction between these two is wild, to say the least. So, all the time, and I do mean all the freaking time, Black Dog is saying, give me them up, Billy. And Billy says, you'll never get them up, Black Dog. I feel like I've said this sentence exactly 10 times.
Yes, you have done actually.
It's so bizarre. I insist, give me them up or I'll give you the black spot. No, don't give me the black spot or I'll die. Because I guess it's superstition, or it means that he's going to be targeted by the other pirates and killed. It's a pirate tradition, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was in the book as well. So anyway, all right, you've convinced me, Black Dog. I'll give you the mop. All right, Billy, give me the mop. They have exactly the same voice, by the way.
Yes.
It's weird. All right, you'll get the mop right now. So as he says that, Billy takes a few steps back and then starts running in a very awkward fashion as a weird tambourine plays. And as he runs towards Black Dog says, I'm waiting for the mop, Billy. He could not understand what was happening, apparently. And then Billy just launches himself, and I do mean launches himself. He turns into a flashing neon light for a second as he morphs into a missile, I think. And then he hits some sort of random mechanism that drops a heavy object on Black Dog.
Yeah, it was like 100-ton ball weight or something, I think.
Yes, something like that. And it looked, this whole scene, this whole sequence of events, it looked painful, absolutely painful.
The way everything moved and reacted, it was like watching rubber and clay become one.
It looked like a Terry Gilliam's cut-out animation going horribly wrong, honestly. Whereas all the parts are not supposed to be where they actually are, and the characters have a weird timing to everything they do, to the point that it's unwieldy. And then they reuse the same animation immediately, and Billy hits again the mechanism, which drops a giant tuba on Black Dog, at which point Black Dog says, you know, Billy, if I didn't know you better, I think you were trying not to give me the map.
And another tuba falls on top of that tuba. He pops out of that tuba as well. And then a third one happens, and he comes out of that one as well.
And then
all 3 times he comes out of the tiniest spout, despite, you know, his head being like 100 times larger than the spout.
This is the film attempting slapstick cartoon comedy and failing so miserably at it that it becomes brilliant, honestly. It's so bad. It's so disastrous.
I was laughing so hard because
listen.
Awful it was.
This cannot even be excused by saying it's quote-unquote Russian slapstick. But no, this cannot even be justified as being Russian slapstick, because as we know, Russian slapstick is a real, established style of physical comedy that takes everything you know about comedic timing and gags and physical comedy, turns it on its head, and everything is off. The timing is off, the setup is off, everything. This goes way beyond that, and it's just broken beyond repair.
Yeah, there's a bit of a chase, flying chase.
And then all of a sudden they are playing ropes?
Yeah, and the guy, the Black Dog changes to a plane with a gun, I think.
They waste time. They waste running time for about 5 minutes or more in a film that's only 1 hour long. So already they are struggling to pad it out. They are struggling to get to their running time of 62 minutes, which is absurd. They don't have enough material to fill an hour-long film.
I like how in all of this, Black Dog gets the last laugh on Billy Bones.
Okay, so there is this one moment in which Billy is trying to pass as a statue, which goes on for far too long. And Billy Bones doesn't know he's a statue, but then he knows he's pretending to be a statue, and after a completely idiotic back and forth, Billy Bones finds himself with the black spot in his hand. "How could you do this to me, Billy? I thought we were friends." "Well, not after you threw a trombone on him."
Yeah, and a 100-ton ball.
Or
on top of
whatever that was. It does not matter. "I'm still your friend, Billy. I'll send flowers to your grave."
it.
And then Black Dog simply vanishes, and we cut to Philip
coming
in his
over.
really, really dumb little vehicle, hovercraft, which moves about as erratically as every single character in the film. He gets where Billy is, and Billy is going to give him the map for Treasure Planet just before he just keels over and dies.
Because, death and black spots.
The black spot. In the novel, that was left to interpretation. It could be that he died because he was so scared and superstitious of what the black spot could do to him that his heart could not take it. So it becomes a placebo effect, or a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will.
Yeah.
He was also old, so there is that.
That
Right.
too.
So the map is Philip's now.
Yes, and he decides to go off to his commander to bring it to him.
Right now, I just learned that he has a commander, which
Yes.
means he's in the military or something, and it just so happened to be Captain Smollett, also from the novel. Well, he's Commander Smollett here. And so, after he informs his commander that he found the map for Treasure Planet, we cut immediately to Commander Smollett.
Yeah, before we got to see this commander, basically Philip's little hovercraft was being chased by a spaceship with a couple of guns on it or something at the front.
Yes, I'm surprised they found him immediately, the rest of the pirates, that is. You
Yeah,
would have to assume that's them, right?
You would assume so, but to save time, the ship, Philip's hovercraft, gets to the base, and as soon as the door closes, the spaceship that was following him crashes into it and explodes.
Ah,
So, I don't know if it was them, but... So, that was... a
okay,
bit-
so back to Commander Smollett, right?
Yeah,
Commander
with-
Smollett!
Probably with the bestest, worst scene of the movie?
I mean, okay, so Commander Smollett is minding his own business in his base or spaceship or whatever, and then this guy with a stupid tucked on mask shows up and says, "Hey, I want my haircut, barber." He sounds... I don't know how to describe it. He sounds like he's trying to do a Saturday Night Live sketch. It's weird. So this guy shows up. He wants a haircut. I am trying to describe what happens here because, believe you me, it's hard.
It is very difficult
So,
to remember and to describe.
So this slim idiot with a tacked-on mask, which is obviously a pirate pretending not to be a pirate, he thinks this is a barber shop or something, to which Smollett says to him that this is not in fact a barber shop. Ah, okay, so, oh, look at this hole, it's a hole large enough to hide a map. I didn't say anything about a map! So, with the subtlety of a dancing hippopotamus, he gets very easily thwarted by Smollett, which proceeds to literally trash him, as in he ends up in a trash can or something.
It was at that point I actually thought that the second guy who came along after that was formed by the first person. That first guy basically transformed into the second guy?
No, it was a different guy who came in also nonchalantly and wanted to order a burger or something,
Yeah,
because
he
now it's a fast food apparently. I have to ask you guys, what was the plan here? You just waltz into the ship, pretending not to know it's a ship, and then what? How are you going to get information about the map if you're not supposed to give away the fact that you're looking for a map? Because you're supposed to not give away that you're pirates. This is clearly supposed to pass as a comedic moment with dumb henchmen doing dumb henchman things. But again, the timing is off, the comedy is off, the voice work is off. Everything is wrong, and double wrong with a side of mayonnaise.
Oh
It's
gosh.
so baffling.
And the next guy after that.
Wait,
was
wait! But you see, this is what
Yeah.
happens. Smollett punches the guy,
Yeah.
and when he punches him, he makes this "wing" sound effect. It sounded like a rejected soundbite from a Gene Deitch's Tom and Jerry cartoon. It was so bad that not even Gene would use it for his terrible Tom and Jerry episodes. And the guy gets thrown into a tube and outside the tube, and then he bounces off a wall and goes back where Smollett is and gets punched again in the same exact manner and goes through the same tube as before and then ends up in the trash can with the previous guy.
Yeah, I forgot about all that.
Yes,
But-
I oddly remember this. I have an oddly vivid memory of this.
I have a vivid memory of the next guy who comes along.
Oh
He is-
gosh,
he
the
is
next
the-
guy.
He's the best of the worst.
Yes, he's the best of the worst. He's a small man or robot. They are all robots, by the way. He
Yeah.
comes in pretending to be blind,
Yeah, he
Ex-
pretends to not to see anything.
except he actually sees everything and points out what he sees to Smollett like
Yeah,
the complete
because-
idiot it is.
Yeah, because he's trying to find out what the map is, and then he asks him for the time, and he goes, yeah, he brings out his watch supposedly. But then the blind guy then points out, that's not a watch, that's something else you're holding.
It's a barometer.
Yeah, barometer, that was it. Oh, but
Okay.
then it's like, could you stand on that red plank over there? Okay, but it's red. I mean, no, it's green.
Yes, it's green.
Yeah.
Wow, you're bad at this. You've got to get up pretty early in the morning to fool Commander Smollett, says Commander Smollett.
uh,
He says that even though literally 2 minutes later he's reintroduced to all the same guys he just punched out of his ship as a legitimate crew for his ship.
all because the person who recommended them was just a guy who just came in out of nowhere going like, hello, I have like 15 years of experience. I would like to be your first mate.
Right, you're hired instantly. No qualifications needed. No references needed. You are my first mate, Long John Silver. Literally, Long John Silver. I must admit, when he showed up the first time, I thought to myself, is this Boyaki from Yataman? What are you doing here? Or, you know, a more mainstream reference, Waluigi without the mustache and with a peg leg. That is how Long John Silver looks in this film.
Yeah, it's not, and we don't mean like it's a peg leg on his foot. It's like a literal peg that's a leg, as in like it's a literal, his entire leg is peg leg.
In the original book, he was a man with one leg. He did not have a peg leg or a prosthetic anything to substitute his missing leg. He just had a racket, I guess
Yeah.
you call it, to support himself.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Silver becomes the first mate of the ship on the freaking spot, and Philip is the cabin boy.
because
And
of-
immediately, his crew of pirate robots, which are obviously the same people that Smollett just took care of not 2 seconds ago, they become the crew of the Española, the ship in
Yes.
question.
Oh,
Oh, and then I guess the journey to Treasure Planet begins.
yes, finally the journey to Treasure Planet begins.
I hope everybody dies. Especially that odious mechanical parrot that runs on batteries.
Oh, you got to be introduced to that parrot soon.
Yes, I mean, listen. of all the characters in this film and their erratic animations, the parrot is the most erratic of them all. His lower beak is literally going on the opposite direction as his upper beak as he speaks. It's like I'm talking like this. It's absolutely grotesque.
Oh gosh.
Even Long John Silver is annoyed by him.
Yeah. So much so he complains about who turned that parrot on.
And then the parrot answers with the best line in the entire film. Well, you don't turn me on, that's for sure. But
Got away with it.
I can't believe he made that joke. I'm the funny guy. You thought the barber guy was the comic relief, but no, it is the parrot. It is the parrot instead.
Not much really happens on the ship, does it?
No, a lot of nothing happens for several minutes. Oh, also we forgot to mention, Black Dog is also on the ship.
Yeah, Black Dog's on the ship.
That's going to be important ? For later. Speaking of later, so all of a sudden, with no explanation whatsoever, after a weird, trippy sequence of random sporadic fires, the crew of the ship, captain, cabin boy, and everyone else, are transported into the 17th century, the time of the novel, which they address in universe, which makes no sense because this is already an adaptation of the novel.
I cannot fathom why.
But here's the kicker. They are on a classic 17th century wooden ship in space without anything protecting them from the vacuum of space. They have been teleported into this bizarre scenario, and then they all get attacked by some sort of electrical energy consuming fish, and they attack the robots because they feed off of energy, I think. There is nothing in this film that gets established properly, contextualized in any way whatsoever. Basically, we only realize what happens after that happened. And somebody has to explain what happened with a throwaway line. It's always like that.
Okay. So several points I have to make here, because the only point that I remember hearing in this film was that they were going through an electrical storm of some description, and that was the cause of the fire thing.
And that turned the ship into a wooden ship?
A 17th century ship. I mean...
And Philip lost his memories, but then regained them instantly? And he was named Jim Hawkins, like the protagonist of the novel, which this film is based on, but that is nonsensical because they are already acknowledging characters from the novel as real-life characters within the universe.
Yeah, I really don't get this bit where basically they even drop the author's name of the original book as well, I think.
Yes, they do. The captain does. Captain Smollett from the story Treasure Island.
But these creatures are just waltz into the scene. You know, Smolder just basically tells Philip...
Smollett.
Yeah, Smollett.
You said Smolder.
Okay, sorry.
Commander Smolder, that's his name now.
Yeah, so Commander Smolder or something. We see these aliens come in, waltz into the scene, and the captain just basically says, "Ignore them, Philip." I'm like, how can you ignore them?
They're attacking the robots. The robots are our crew. Without our crew, we can't do anything. Also, as it turns out, ignore them is the mantra of Captain Smolder throughout this film. But
Yeah,
anyway, what's
seriously.
bizarre, what's even more bizarre is that not only they are on a 17th century wooden ship in outer space, they are also dressed like they are in the actual 17th century, with a hat that doesn't move along with the head, I might add.
Yeah, I swear, at one point during the scene, even the robots got, this sort of outfit, but then straight afterwards, it disappears off them.
Yes, so after this whole idiotic, confounding, stupid scene of these alien beings attacking the robots, we come back to reality. And the whole point of that scene was for Philip is back being Philip, by the way. It
Yeah.
was Jim Hawkins for a minute. Philip saves the life of Black Dog, and Black Dog is in his stead. So that whole scene, that whole cinematic tirade was only for the purpose of Black Dog owing his life to Philip. Did we need to time travel back to the 17th century to accomplish that? Did we need for the ship to turn into a wooden ship? Did we need for everybody to change their name and drop the title of the original novel and the author of the novel? Did we need all of that? Did we need the alien fish that feast upon robotic energy? Did we seriously need all that, or were you just padding for time?
I think you know the answer.
Okay, so moving on, they eventually get to Treasure Planet. Also, Philip obviously finds out what the scheme of Long John Silver is. I want to take control of the treasure, because that will make me the master of all the universe! And I think I've earned it.
Yeah, pretty much all that. And
It's... it's a scene.
Philip, because the fact he knows this, he decides to tell Smolder about this.
Don't worry, Philip. We'll just pretend not to know what they're up to. That way we can fool them. Not 2 seconds after they land on Treasure Planet, Long John Wasilver betrays them.
I mean, what else was he gonna do when they got
Yes.
there?
Get me the map, Captain! The captain does not give him the map. He takes the map from the captain's pocket. So later on, he has the gall of being shocked and surprised when the map is fake. He took the map! He took the map! It was his hand that took the map! He fooled himself!
You forgot, though, for several more minutes, though, before he finds out it's a fake, the parrot takes it.
Oh, there is this all pointless chase sequence with the parrot stealing the map and making so many dumb jokes as he runs away from the chasing crew.
Yeah.
So many dumb jokes! I'm about to break the world record!
They really wanted to be Looney Tunes for like a couple of minutes.
Okay, but this is what kills me, because it is such a failure in visual presentation as well as timing.
Yeah.
So the dumb barber guy gets closer to the parrot, and the parrot says, "Congratulations, you won the race," or something along those lines. So he gives him a bouquet of what I can only describe as flowers made of nuts and bolts, golden nuts and bolts, and then these flowers made of nuts and bolts inexplicably explode. But the best part is that barber guy was in the middle of a monologue dictating his winning speech, and as the flowers inexplicably explode, he keeps
still doing
talking,
a speech, right?
and the sound of the explosion only comes 5 seconds later, the actual explosion. Wow! That's bad.
quality.
What
timing.
happened? What has happened here? Did the storyboard artists not inform the animators that there was supposed to be a bomb in that bouquet? Did the sound editor not get the memo that explosions and sound of explosion go on at the same time?
Oh,
What is
God.
happening here?
Oh gosh.
Okay. I need a small break. Be right back, folks. And we are back. Well, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, we're back in our bodies.
I do not think we can do this film justice just by talking about it. We sound like a couple of raving madmen
I thought it was the
spouting
point.
nonsense about this. I cannot believe what I'm hearing from myself as I speak these words. You would have to watch this film for yourself to believe it, but I cannot recommend you to do so, lest you lose your sanity like we have.
I know. Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So after
Okay.
all that,
Which was useless and pointless, much like most of this. Silver gets his map back, but then...
two things happened at this point. One was that he finds out the maps are fake, and he's all like, how could I have been tricked?
Again, I reiterate, you tricked yourself.
Yeah. And the second thing is, because during that whole chase sequence, Silver decided to shoot at the parrot, which basically shot at the fauna shell-like thing.
It hit something, and that something was alive. So all of a sudden, the floor is lava.
Yes, literally, all of it's lava, and suddenly lava birds everywhere.
Okay, you mean one lava bird that was awkwardly mirrored to fill out an entire shot. So we have several awkwardly mirrored models of the same bird moving at the same time to fill out a shot, and it looks atrocious.
It is absolutely.
Okay, at this point in time, I was having flashbacks to that animated adaptation of Osamu Tezuka's Phoenix, set in space, which was also being released at the same time as this film, come to think of it.
Oh, wow.
And it's also a trippy trip that's somewhat relentless. We will have to watch that at some point and maybe talk about it.
Yeah, I guess we have to. At some point.
I have it on DVD and I am relatively proud of that.
That's
Because it's pretty rare to find online otherwise.
good. Oh.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
the Firebirds are attacking the ship. They are also attacking everyone else. And did you know that robots are immune to lava? Because I sure didn't. They get swallowed up by the lava, but they are fine later on. Apparently.
Yeah.
So anyway, how do we stop the Firebird, and why, more importantly, why there is a swarm of Firebirds and lava attacking them all of a sudden? Why? It's a security measure that Flint prepared just to fight invaders. Sure, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Also, can I say that during this whole part, when Philip and Silver and everybody else were talking to each other.
You know what? Wajon sounds better.
Yeah, Wajon. Basically, while everybody was talking to each other in this entire scene, because there's fire in the area, that means we have to make everything look all wiggly and like they're made of jelly.
Yes, also, speaking of terrible animation errors, it's really bad when on the side of the screen you can see character models just dissipating into obscurity.
Yeah.
Because of this weird effect you decided to go on with. So there is that happening. Also, you know all those scenes where the ship lands on something?
Yes.
But there is no ship to be seen. Instead of the ship, you see a blurry silhouette where the ship is supposed to be. I have to wonder what happened there.
They must have forgot to put it in, so decided to hide it.
It's about as bad as somebody shaking violently the starry background to give the illusion of movement. Which happens at some point. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's obvious that they have a multiplane camera because there are several objects and backgrounds at a different distance from each other that move at a different speed from each other, and they are supposed to be at a different distance from each other. It's clear they have a multiplane camera, but either they don't know how to use it, or it is broken.
Yeah.
And again, I made my speculations about this already. I would love nothing more than to have an animator on board this podcast. An animator specifically trained on classic traditional animation that uses multiplane camera. I would love to have someone like, I don't know, Don Hertzfeld to try and help us dissect what is happening here. Because I pride myself as someone who has a somewhat passing or decent understanding of how animation works and what techniques are implemented at a given time. I have developed an eye for it, but this goes beyond anything I could hope to learn on my own. This is just wowie.
Yeah, wowies indeed, good lord.
But then, this is the best part of the entire film, because this is where it gets weird.
Really? This is where it gets weird, is it?
Yes, this is where it gets weird. Okay, so it is revealed that there is an artificial intelligence kaiju named the Nabucodonosor, which looks like a giant robot chicken right out of a tokusatsu show, and he's controlling the lava birds and the lava, and he's been set in place by Flint to repel invaders that would want his treasure. But then, I don't know if it's the parrot who says this, I think it is. The parrot says that in order to stop this attack, they have to control the AI, and the only way to control the AI is to sing.
Yeah.
To sing something very specific.
And John realizes it's Flint's most favorite song, an opera piece.
Yes, not just any opera piece, my friend. Giuseppe Verdi. Flint is a fan of Giuseppe Verdi, the famous composer Giuseppe Verdi. And with only that information, Philip, which luckily just so happened to be an expert in opera himself, realized that, it must be the Giuseppe Verdi's opera by the same name as the robot, the Nabucodonosor. And then everyone starts singing Giuseppe Verdi's Nabucodonosor.
Oh gosh, I just remembered they had a song much earlier, the robots in the movie.
Yes, they had a completely unprompted musical number in Bulgarian that made no sense within the context, because it had no context. It just happens, and since I don't know what they're singing about, It doesn't help. But no, you see, this time I know of what they're singing about because it is a very famous piece that they are singing about, but I cannot believe they are singing about it in the middle of fire and brimstone and a giant robot chicken. They are singing Giuseppe Verdi, in order to quell a murderous robot chicken AI so that it would stop attacking them with firebirds and lava on a treasure planet in space.
Yeah. Yeah,
My
that just
head,
happened.
my head, my head. Why? Why is this happening? Why are we... Why is this the final boss of our podcast?
Why is this movie here? Why are we here?
Why are we fighting the final boss already? We skipped all the side quests by accident, and now we are facing the final boss, and we are awfully under-leveled and under-equipped. We cannot win!
Okay, so
This is the final boss of the podcast! Where do we go from here?
more weirdness?
Oh,
An awful comedy?
oh gosh. Right, so they quell the Nabucodonosor, and immediately John and his crew take control of the bird, and they ride it. They ride it away from Captain Smolder and the map that John needs to find the treasure. The bloody idiot.
And he kidnaps Philip during the whole thing too.
I guess he does, but I don't remember when that happens exactly.
Well, he kidnapped him there and then, I think, because I remember that they were riding towards the place while
They did
going...
not have the map, so I don't know where they were going.
Me neither. So I mean, all I know is that they were going through a place full of hats called Boot something or other.
Boot Heel.
Yeah, Boot Hill.
I guess the joke is that they're not boots, they are hats.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there is this moment when they do a hostage exchange, the boy in exchange of the map, and all of a sudden you have Captain Smolder on a precipice, but the image is mirrored on the right side of the screen, so we have this perfectly symmetrical shot of two Smolders on two different precipices, and for a moment I thought I have lost my mind. For a moment I thought this is the worst animation error I've ever seen, but now it turns out that's actually supposed to happen? That's part of the plot?
Oh,
because
no, there's like two Smolders.
Yes, because the pirates acknowledge that there are two Smolders when there is supposed to be one. This is me coughing my lungs out, by the way.
Yeah. So long story short.
Too late.
Yeah, he basically, while John goes up one side of the hill because he really wants his map.
First, he actually decides on which half of the
he
precipice he wants to go. He throws his giant coin to the side.
Yeah, he throws up his giant coin, which is the size of his palm of his hand.
Yes. Well, I guess he gets to the wrong Smolder because it is a reflection.
Yeah,
well, it doesn't work like that because the reflection still gives him a map that he holds, but then the map disappears. That's not how reflections work!
I like how the parrot just casually says as well, Like, aha, it was like a reflection. And he just stood in the right place, so the map would be reflected, and also the voice would also echo as well.
What the hell are you talking about? I was literally yelling at the screen while the parrot was quote-unquote explaining what was going on. I yelled, "What the hell are you talking about, you stupid parrot? Nothing of what you say, nothing makes any sense. You're wrong. This film is wrong. Everything is wrong. Ah!"
So yeah, after yet another hilariously bad scene like that, which is supposed
Okay.
to be genuine comedy, I guess.
Genuine comedy, you say? No! This is where the film gets weird.
We get a bookend on weirdness on this one.
Remember that psychedelic, inexplicable, incomprehensible introduction to
Yes.
this film? Now we have a reprise of that, except I have a much more vivid memory of what goes down.
Yeah.
Because it is impossible to forget.
Yes, because there's a lot of things in this with a lot of
Okay, so I guess, and mind you, I am not 100% certain, but I guess Captain Smolder and Cabin Boy get on a hovercraft and go right into the heart of the planet where the treasure is supposed to be, and they are greeted by a million weird hallucinations.
which he proceeds to say, just ignore them, Philip.
That's his mantra. Ignore everything. Ignore the giant, realistic zombie face, which is supposed to be Flint's face, that greets you. Ignore the weird, free-eyed, scary bird right out of Dakamak that's on top of the head.
Yeah.
Ignore that Medusa with severed tits that's trying to seduce you, and ignore all the subsequent naked ladies that start dancing around you and filling up the screen. Ignore all of that. That never happens.
Let's actually take his advice though and ignore every last bit of that scene.
That was almost a well-animated sequence, might I add, for this film's standards, that is, but that was almost visually appealing. All the naked ladies.
It was like looking at old abstract painting of some description. I have no idea. Anyway, we forget the scene, okay?
Okay, it never happens. Just ignore the scene, Philip.
Yes,
Ignore
yes,
this scene, Philip.
ignore
Ignore
the
this
scene,
scene, the bar.
Just ignore the scene, the Madhog.
Okay, so mercifully, we finally reach the treasure, which is this big diamond that apparently contains something or the other.
Basically, they claim it contains all the elements of the planet Earth, essentially.
Okay, this is where the film loses me.
Yeah. By the way, can I say one thing about this treasure? This treasure obviously took most of the budget of this film because it is smoothly animatedly spinning in every scene we see it in.
I mean, it's not that expensive to lock an object into an animation loop.
I mean, it's the most smoothest animation out of everything in this film.
Yikes. Yikes indeed. Long Wajon actually steals the treasure from under their noses, somehow, and then he leaves them on the planet as he steals the ship.
Yeah.
So, in a surprisingly somber moment, both Cabin Boy and Captain are left to starve to death on the planet. Also, the parrot is there, inexplicably.
Yeah, the parrot is gonna starve to death. Yay!
And the parrot is going to die out because of his batteries.
Yeah!
cabin boy gets really solemn and somber and starts to contemplate death when all of a sudden the ship comes back, and as it turns out, Black Dog has, in this order, betrayed his captain, locked him and his crew in the brig, took control of the ship, and came back to rescue them. And this all happened off screen, of course.
Yes, all that happened off screen, and all because he wanted to repay Philip for saving his life.
So they retake the ship, but oh no, the ship is about to enter a black hole. Because of course it does.
Yes.
And at which point, Wajon frees himself, and the ship is set on fire, and literally everyone dies.
Yeah, literally everyone dies in this scene.
They are hit on the head by giant beams, or they are consumed by fire, or they get shot by lasers and they die. All except for Philip.
Yeah, and before Smolder even dies, Smolder says to Philip, "The escape pod, you must take it. Save yourself. The escape pod can only take like 400 grams or..."
450 pounds.
Yeah, 450 pounds.
400 grams? What? Are you going to save a small puppy? 450 pounds. That's the measurement they went with.
450 pounds. But the treasure is also exactly that. So you cannot take it with you. But you know...
I would have tried to do it anyway. But no, what Philip wanted to do, and apparently this has been his goal all along, I had no idea, by the way. This is where everything falls apart. I mean, more than it already has. Because now that the film is just about to end, now that we have effectively seen the climax, now the theme of the film is revealed, and it's about the environment! Again, they might have established this in the introductory monologue.
The one that was whispered and therefore was incomprehensible.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, this is the first time in this film I ever hear about any of this. Specifically, that inside the gem, the 450 pounds Flint's gem, there are means to revitalize the earth and destroy all the machines. And that was Philip's goal all along from the beginning. How? When? Why? What? So he decides to stay on the ship and put the gem, the diamond, on the capsule so that the capsule would get on Earth and literally kill everyone on it so that Mother Nature might have a second chance. Why am I supposed to care about any of this? You did not establish it. You did not have any theming or thematic exploration whatsoever. And now all of a sudden you're telling me that this was all about the environment. That Flint was an environmentalist, I guess? Your goal was to save your planet from the machines because apparently those two metallic cubes fornicating right at the beginning was supposed to be a bad thing. What is happening right now? So, the diamond gets to Earth, kills all the machines.
Yes.
And then things, or people, or more things start parachuting from outer space into the planet, and they play instruments.
Yeah, and they're playing a really awful version of Ode to Joy in the background.
Yes, they play a freaking synthetic Ode to Joy, and it sounds so bad it's almost ingenious. and then blackface stereotypes also descend upon the earth, playing instruments, and I am just shaking my head. And then, the cherry on top of this cake of nonsense,
Oh god.
Mickey
no.
Mouse!
Literally,
Literal Mickey Mouse!
No bootlegging of this. It's Mickey Mouse.
Freaking Mickey Mouse, deliberately stolen from Disney, just lands on the planet as well. Why? Why is there a Mickey Mouse? What is happening? Why is there a Mickey Mouse in this film? What is the instruments? What are the blackface stereotypes? What is it? I cannot.
Well, you don't have to because the movie ends shortly after.
The film just ends just as soon as Mickey Mouse lands on the film for the most ridiculous, unprompted, baffling, out-of-place cameo in the history of cinema. And again, this begs the question, why was this film dubbed in English? Because it being dubbed in English implies that it was distributed in Anglo-Saxon countries, in the rest of the world. And they have Mickey Mouse in this film! They can't get away with that!
Well,
They will not get away with this! What is happening?
Apparently they did.
Apparently they did? This film is still copywritten by its original company, so they faced no repercussions. On the other hand, this is so obscure that Disney would never bother with it. But still, Mickey Mouse just making a random cameo right after the racist musicians was the cherry on top of this cake of disaster.
This movie. Oh, I swear that I was struggling to keep all my brain cells intact.
You know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to go to the page where all the people who worked on this film happen to be listed.
Right.
I'm going to read their names out loud. And I'm going to thank them. Thank them for this masterpiece, for this cinematic opus that we have been granted the honor and pleasure of seeing. So thank you all. Thank you, director Rumen Petkov. I sure grew up watching Dexter's Laboratory. Thank you, Boris Angelov and Josif Perez, for this marvelous, poignant script that you apparently wrote. Thank you to the following animators: N. Slavova, B. Kanev, A. Botusharova, V. Krastev, P. Yandov, N. Tsachev, R. Terzieva, P. Chkalev, T. Tsanev, I. Adzitonev, S. Alexieva, Yakobarelov, D. Zeliazova, D. Rakadzieva, D. Vikov. Thank you, Boris Karadinchev, for the music, the wonderful original soundtrack that makes John Williams blush. Thank you, Zeni Parpalova, for the wonderful, on-point sound effects that were not completely off at all. Thank you, Stoicho Zambazov and F. Arnodov, for your masterful camera work that I definitely noticed all throughout this film. Thank you, I. Koyumzieva and G. Mutavchev, for the backgrounds. Thank you, A. Kristofa Kirkova, for the montages. Thank you, H. Arshikova, assistant director. Editor V. Samuelov, you are the real hero of this film. No doubt, no doubt. There was nothing in this film that was well edited. Nothing at all. Thank you, production managers Yakitsov, S. Dukov, O. Filipov, H.A.L. Keranova, H.A.S. Popov, A. Radichev, V. Kanev, Iver Selinov, N. Ivanov, N. Stefanov, V. Velikov, B. Shishkov, with additional thanks to K. Cherny, V. Muravieva, T. Vasileva, M. Siavova, V. Naidenova, S. Dimitrova, E. Zyatanova, S. Kaichev, S. Todorova, S. Bakalov, F. Arnaudov, and thank you to the band Tangra, which performed the music, and thank you to Animated Cartoon Sofia, holders of the copyright of this film. All of you, thank you. Thank you very much
Yes.
for this experience.
Thank you for this wonderful thing that you brought to us. It's on the fridge.
Yes. Listen, I sincerely hope that all of these people went on to have good careers and improved in their crafts. I know for a fact that Roman Petkov did. Again, going back to the beginning of this podcast, if we have to take one high note, one positivity from all of this experience is that no matter how bad, how terrible, grotesque, and unwieldy your first work will be, that's all that it is. It's your first work. You can only go up from there. You can learn from your mistakes, you can get better at your work, at your career, and eventually, if you work hard enough, you can achieve what Roman Petkov was able to achieve in his life.
Yeah.
Roman Petkov died last year, sadly. So consider this review a sort of homage, to his illustrious career in the field of animation, by ripping apart his first and only feature-length animated film. I sure hope this was worth it. I sure hope whomever listens to this podcast had fun at our expenses. That's all I can hope for at this point.
Yeah.
Because this film is everything we described it to be and more.
Yeah.
It is such an anti-artistic statement, intentional or not, that in a way it deserves respect. You know, when they talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, they acknowledge that perhaps animation can do things that live action could never hope to accomplish.
Yeah.
That's the same for this film, but on the extreme opposite end of the spectrum. No live-action film can ever hope to look as wrong as this film does. It's just impossible.
I mean, can you imagine someone trying to do a live-action version of that guy contorting himself just to try and push a switch that makes tubers fall on somebody?
It would be too expensive to pull off. It would never look right, which is to say wrong. The only live-action comparison I can find to the character models in this film are the grotesque aliens from Peter Jackson's Bad Taste.
Oh gosh.
And they were supposed to look ugly and grotesque. Actually, come to think of it, this quote-unquote art style reminds me of Italian political cartoonist Altan.
Alright.
This is very similar to his style. Altan started off as a children's book writer, but then he eventually became a political cartoonist. He drew cartoons, political cartoons. They were bad, and I personally dislike his style very much. he had very grotesque looking characters,
Yeah.
and they are almost as grotesque and unappealing, fundamentally unappealing, as the characters in this film. After I finished watching it, I stood there for a moment in silence. My mind was racing. My heart was skipping a beat. I decided, for my own sanity, to look up some of the artists I follow on Twitter because I had a desperate need to look at something appealing for a minute. Otherwise, I was going to drown in misery.
And here's me. I just basically sat there, turned my head to look at an invisible camera that was never to be there. Like, just to basically give the expression of, what did I just watch?
This is why I wanted to watch this film with you. But alas, we did not end up doing that. But this is why I wanted to do it, because this is not the kind of experience you can do on your own. Grab a friend, grab multiple friends, sit with them, and rip this film to shred. That is the only sensible recommendation I can give you.
Yeah.
Animation is hard. I understand that. I respect the work of animators. But there is a limit to everything. And this film broke me.
Oh boy, this film.
So, is there anything you would like to add before we wrap this podcast up?
Just ignore it, Madhog.
Okay, done. All right. So, thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been Madhog Die Master.
And I've been Devar Akron.
You can follow us on Twitter at Adriano Bordoni1 and
At Devar Akron.
Delayed Reaction, as always.
Yes.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Madhog Die Master. Click on the notification bell and all of that. Also, Devar has a YouTube channel as well. Would you like to plug it?
Yes, it's basically the fellow Bravers Productions thing. I need to get back to it at some point.
Right.
Yes.
And you can choose to donate on my Patreon at patreon.com/Madhog, where all the audio versions of this show will be posted.
Yeah.
And I guess that's about it for the plugging.
Yeah,
Next time, I have just decided we're going to review Disney's Treasure Planet.
That sounds good.
I mean, why not, I suppose.
Yeah, why not? I'm drained from this, to say that.
Yes, I guess we need to be brought up again before we fall down and we hurt.
Yeah.
Because life is suffering. Black dog!
Good night, everybody.
Good night and take care, buddy.
You know, Devar, that Treasure Planet from last week sure took a lot out of me.
Yeah, it certainly reminded me of something else I should have been watching, to be honest.
Yes, but back to my bit. It made me feel empty. It made me feel like I don't belong. And I just want a moment to be real. Wanna touch things I don't feel. Wanna hold on and feel I belong. And ow! Can the world want me to change? They're the ones that stay the same. They don't know me, 'cause I'm not here. Na 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 na. Welcome to the Treasure Planet. The decent
Disney,
one.
yeah.
Must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch. Oh, must be the season of the witch.
As it was prophesied by the unauthorized cameo of Mickey Mouse in 1982's Treasure Planet, here we are in the year of 2002 with the release of one of the biggest box office bombs that Disney has ever put out. Treasure Planet. What to say about Treasure Planet?
A few things, but not as much as the one we watched last week.
I mean, there will never be enough words to describe what the experience was, really, what that experience was like, because there will never be enough explanations in the world to justify its existence. Well, maybe I can surmise why we had Mickey Mouse in that film of all unpredictable cameos, as you might have surmised in the Eastern European world governed by socialism under the influence of the Soviet Union. It's a whole complex social political situation around those parts in the early 80s. Mickey Mouse is pretty much the symbol of capitalism and American imperialism. So having him right at the end of that film, being one of the new residents of the now reformed Earth planet, strikes me as a very openly political statement on behalf of Roman Petkov. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because, like I said, we are not here for that. We are here for the American imperialist version of Treasure Planet.
Yay! Treasure Planet.
Yes.
The one that doesn't make me want to question my life choices.
Yes. A Disney film. Not one of its best, not one of its worst, a sort of middling one.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. I mean,
It's fine.
that's the short of it, really. There's really nothing bad about it, but there's really nothing amazing about it compared to their earlier outings.
It comes with the territory, really. This is one of the very last traditionally animated Disney films. But considering what the quality was at the time in the early 2000s, it sadly makes sense that they would eventually favor CGI films, given how good Pixar was doing at the time.
Yeah.
Of course, early Disney Animation Studios outings in the CGI world were questionable, to say the least. Hey, remember 1999's Tarzan? That was good, right?
Yeah.
Oh gee, next year it's the new millennium, the year of 2000. The future is here. I wonder what Disney is going to put out coming December. Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Look, if I wanted to see a bad version of The Land Before Time, I would watch one of the 12 sequels it had.
Yes, all of the 12 sequels.
Okay, back on track.
Yeah,
Treasure
back on
Planet. Why Treasure Planet? Why the classic Robert Louis Stevenson's quintessential adventure epic set in space? Why indeed?
Yeah, why indeed? That is a good question, considering that it's quite odd that two versions of Treasure Planet, basically spacefaring in it.
Yes, by either a cosmic coincidence or a giant conspiracy. Put on your conspiratorial goggles, Devar. We are diving in. Not really. There isn't really much information outside of what's already publicly available about this film. It was originally pitched in 1985 by Ron Clements in the same meeting in which The Little Mermaid was pitched. Guess which film ended up being made and began the Disney's Renaissance, and which one was eventually made and almost single-handedly killed traditionally animated Disney features.
During this development as well, not during the development, but rather
In the early days of
in the early,
when
every
the
time
idea was floating in the ether of the subconscious mind.
yeah, that's it.
That's it, okay.
They kept on pitching the idea, at different points, and it wasn't until like Hercules, that they basically were made a deal to say we can do Hercules, but only if we can do Treasure Planet afterwards.
Oh yes, I'm aware of that story. Oh boy, that deal paid off.
The film took about 4.5 years to make.
For Disney standards, that's actually not as atypical as you might think. You know that one 2 seconds long scene in Hercules in which our favorite big boy is being trapped by all the Hydra heads?
Yes.
That scene at the time took 2 years to make. That scene
Wow.
alone, that's impressive.
That is very impressive to say for that one scene.
Yes, with the then available CGI technology. Unfortunately, most of the CGI in that film has not aged very well. Especially the Hydra, which is sad, considering how much work went into that one frame, really.
Yeah. So as I was saying, the thing took 4 years to make. And I remember reading online about what went into the whole process at the time. They basically really wanted to infuse the movie with a sense similar to, let's say, Steven Spielberg.
Oh yes, they wanted to move the cameras around, sweeping them, or at least to give them a proper cinematic effect like a Steven Spielberg film would be. That was a mistake, because animation should not try to be like live action. Animation has its own unique strengths and can do things that live action can't. Personally, in my own personal philosophy, that feels very wrong-headed, but...
Yeah, in other words, animation should not be trying to emulate
But they
works in
wanted
other
to do
medium.
that. The point is that they wanted to make a Steven Spielberg-like film.
Yeah.
Except animated.
Yes, which is not a bad thing at the time. It was just an idea they wanted to try out, and they really wanted to put their creative process into that.
Clearly, in order to accomplish that, they would have to use a lot of CGI.
It was actually something that they really wanted to do, even in the earliest days, but...
the technology was yet to be there.
By process of fate, I would probably put it.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yes, by process of fate, the technology came to the right point at the right time for them to utilize it for their own creative measures.
Yes, and the end result was... fine.
Treasure Planet. Yes.
Very
It was fine.
It was fine. It was incredibly fine. Incredibly fine indeed. Fine, but not at the box office. In fact, why don't we take a quick look at the numbers, shall we?
Yes, you do that. Otherwise, I have to turn back to my computer here.
Otherwise, the construct of your entire life might fall apart. Like badly dated CGI technology. The budget was $140 million.
Yeah, that included advertising as well.
You know how much it made back?
Please do tell me. I know, but...
$109.6 million worldwide.
That meant they actually made a $79 million loss.
It was a bomb.
Which is really weird because both critics and fans alike actually praised the film at the time of its release.
Well, they did and they didn't. On average, the reviews were akin to, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was nothing special, but it was not forgettable. It had an interesting style and aesthetics. It was ambitious for the time, but it did not feel quite right. It did not feel on the level of, say, the true classics of the Disney Renaissance, which is the feel that they tried to recapture for the better part of a decade after the Renaissance, but they could never quite do it. Not with
Yeah.
traditional animation, sadly.
Yeah.
We mentioned CGI, which this film has in spades. There was a philosophy.
Yeah.
They wanted 70% of it to be traditional animation and 30% of it to be CGI.
They actually went for two different styles of CGI. Basically, they went for the typical CGI you see in the film. So basically, you have fully modeled ships and crates and all that. And you also have certain characters who are flat CGI characters, like the robots, for example.
Yes, and it makes sense, honestly. I think the futuristic setting lends itself relatively well to the CGI technology without it being too out of place, or at least feeling too out of place. It stands to reason that if the film was set in the original time period of the mid-18th century, all the CG elements might have been distracting, but in a pretty spiffy retro-futuristic environment, such as the one in said film, it's acceptable, I'd say, to have several pieces of machinery or robotic characters to be computer-generated.
Yeah.
After all, CGI was the animation technology of the future, so it stands to reason that they would use it to animate things and objects that would not exist in present-time reality. I appreciate that, and in fairness, the special effects are not all that distracting. They have not aged all that poorly. They somewhat have, because it's a film from 2002 and said technology made gigantic leaps ever since then, but it does not look bad. There are several scenes and environments that still look relatively good. For example, when they pan towards the moon, the half moon, and the camera gets close and it is revealed to be an entire port town built atop the surface of the half moon, and we get closer and closer and more details are revealed, and it looks pretty nice, all things considered. It was definitely impressive at the time. I should know, I was there. I watched this film in the theaters.
Yeah, I didn't watch this film until a couple of years back with my fiance, so that was my first viewing of the film.
This film has a somewhat special place in my heart, mostly because at the time the yearly Disney outing was still an important event, at least for me. It was the big Christmas release of a Disney film. Because I grew up during the Disney Renaissance and post-Disney Renaissance, I wouldn't miss a single Disney film every year. The good ones, the bad ones, the really bad ones, the mediocre ones, I've seen them all with various degrees of enjoyment.
Yeah.
I had various degrees of enjoyment with Treasure Planet as well. So we described the use of CGI, but let's talk about the character animation. Specifically the traditionally animated characters, because this is top-notch Disney quality character animation, no doubt.
I really can't say much about it other than it looks really good for their standards at the time.
There are a lot of moments in this film, a lot of genuine character moments that are conveyed emotionally through physical language and expressivity that are
Yeah.
not otherwise conveyed through words of dialogue. And when we have those little moments, especially any interaction between Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver, we have truly magical moments. Moments of unexpected emotional nuance, the likes of which I don't find often in Disney films of that time. So it was refreshing to actually relive this film in that sense.
Definitely one of the few Disney films that uses expressive emotion quite well. What I mean is that basically this one is very clearly focused on that due to the fact it's very character driven. Because we know there's a plot and it's Treasure Planet, so there's a treasure involved.
I
But
mean, it's Treasure Island in space.
yeah, it's
The
Treasure
story
Island
is
in
pretty
space.
famous. It's the most famous and most quintessential adventure novel ever written. It gave us the definitive idea of what pirates would look like. It gave
Yeah.
us the definitive pirate icon in Long John Silver, one-legged man with a talking parrot.
Yeah.
All the stereotypes and the archetypes, all the tropes and cliches from pirate stories and pirate media in general, they all come from this one novel, which to this day it is the most inspiring in that category. And there have been countless adaptations thereof, obviously.
Obviously.
And in almost all of those adaptations, the good ones at the very least, in all of those adaptations, the one main focus is always the relationship between Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver, because that was also the focus of the book. Now, the book was essentially a coming-of-age story for young Jim Hawkins. He had his own hero's journey, and the sprawling adventure, the hunt for the MacGuffin treasure, was used as a backdrop for the emotional and personal journey of the main character, as coming-of-age adventure stories are wont to do. That said, being a book, the advantage it had over, say, a film with a limited running time is the same advantage that books always had. You can have a lot more to it. We have Jim's story, but you also have an entire world filled with interesting and threatening characters.
Yeah.
There is a backstory, there are twists and turns at every page, so to speak. It's a complete adventure.
Yeah.
The problem with the film, as in the problem specifically with a Disney film of the time, is that they are always 90 minutes long. In order to fit a long story like Treasure Island, they had to cut some things and reduce some other things.
Yeah, I actually did read on a couple of cuts they made in the film. For example, they cut one scene with Jim Hawkins and an alien child to basically show that sensitive side of Jim Hawkins. Another one they cut is more of a questionable, thing to do with aliens giving birth and such.
Okay, well...
Yeah, because this is for the ending of the film, but apparently a line was cut where a male character says that basically he gave birth to children despite being with a female, and Disney were not quite happy with such a line being in the film.
Okay, that's a weird bit of trivia, but I was referring specifically to what Disney did in this film and what was presented in the text. Because,
I know. I just thought that it'd be interesting to share a couple I found out.
Yes, that is fascinating. No doubt. You made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
But regardless. So, back on track. There are many, many characters in the book. And obviously, for reasons regarding time, they had to cut many characters and their own stories.
And in one case, they've merged two characters into one character.
Oh yes, they merged George Merry, the second in command of Long John Silver's crew, with that one pirate that Jim has a dramatic confrontation on the boat in the book.
Another character they've merged together was two particular characters, I forget their names, but they would form the character Dr. Doppler.
Yes, basically, there were two characters that joined Jim in his journey to find the treasure. One of them was a doctor, the other was the district squire of Montresor, which is named Trelawney, I believe.
Yeah.
He was the one who provided the financial resources to hire the crew of, not pirates, and Captain Smollett, which was hired to command the squire's ship, the Hispaniola.
Yeah.
They changed the name of the ship in this film. And they also changed the name of the captain, and they also changed the gender of the captain, and they also changed the species of the captain. So we have Captain Amelia, a cat woman from outer space, voiced by Emma Thompson in all of her over-the-top Britishness. And I love her, by the way.
Yeah, she's a really nice character.
She is great, and she's also criminally underutilized. Which brings me to the issue that I mentioned earlier regarding the limitations of the 90 minutes feature-length running time.
Yeah.
All of the side characters are dreadfully underdeveloped, sadly.
That is a sacrifice, sadly.
They were fun and funny characters, they were presented as such, but the film doesn't really do that much with them. They seem to have their own arcs and their own story going forward, but it's mostly left out to focus on what the film chooses to focus, which was the right choice, but still, it's aggravating, downright aggravating, to have such a incredibly fun and witty, action-oriented character like Captain Amelia. Yes, that's her name, by the way, Captain Amelia Smollett.
Yeah.
Or just Amelia. I think they've gotten rid of Smollett altogether. But anyway, you have this really good character, and then she gets injured and she's completely out of the third act of the film. So she ends up doing nothing. Exactly. They had to take her out because she was too good.
The only thing that happens with her in the third act is everyone's protecting her and...
because she's injured and
because
defenseless.
She's injured, and Doppler,
has to man up.
Yeah, has to man up, be the man to protect her and save her.
Because apparently it was his own arc to get over himself and his anxieties and quirky, nerdy doctor behaviors. That's obviously the arc that was established for him. He was supposed to become a man by the end. But there isn't much to him throughout this film. In fact, as soon as Long John Silver is properly introduced in the film, all of the side characters seem to disappear for a huge chunk of it, because they have to focus on the relationship, the one relationship that actually matters.
Yeah.
But that's, again, aggravating, because by the end of the film, Amelia and Doppler end up together as a married couple with disgusting cat-puppy hybrids. We should actually elaborate on this, because Doppler is a dog man.
Yes, he's a dog man, and he had coitus with a cat lady.
Don't make me think about that. Jesus.
And apparently he gave birth to the children.
No. No.
In the cut line, it's what happened.
So, Doppler is a dog, Amelia is a cat. You couldn't possibly make it more transparent that they are complete opposites. So, of course, by the eternal, perennial logic of badly written romances, opposites have to end up together. The problem with that particular scenario, outside of how shady it sounds, and it has always sounded, is that we don't get that many scenes of these two actually forming a romantic chemistry.
No, sadly.
We get the beginning part, in which they are seemingly at each other's throats, or rather he is all hot and bothered by her, and she makes fun of him.
Yeah, teasing him.
Well, I never. Hot and bothered.
He's being all stuck up and hot under the collar.
And then, all of a sudden, they have a romantic chemistry. when the
Just
third act
just,
rolls
just,
around.
just like Disney magic.
So apparently all that bonding, all of that character growing and developing, all of that chemistry forming happened off screen. Perhaps somewhere during the musical montage in the middle of the film. Somewhere around there, the romance happened, but it is not shown in the film, it is not present in the text, it is just there because it has to be there, because it's Disney. If they don't end up with an heterosexual couple by the end of it, they are not happy.
No.
They sure made a lot of furries happy, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of furries would have preferred Amelia on her own.
I'm thinking of the awful cat-dog hybrids that they actually have produced the spawn of that furry love. Why? Why do we have to see them? Seriously.
Well, you know, hybrids were even popular back then in 2000s.
I'm pretty sure they were, but that doesn't mean I want to see them. You know?
Yes, I know.
If anything, I'd say this film was very pioneeristic when it comes to the furry community.
Oh boy.
Right, so that's the problem with the side characters, and take that issue we just mentioned with Amelia and Doppler and extend it to every single other character in the cast.
Yeah.
The villains are underdeveloped and uninteresting. Jim Hawkins' mom was a good character, but we don't get much of her because the story doesn't have much of her to begin with.
Yeah, she's only there in the beginning to basically tell him, okay, you could go.
I guess you can go have your coming-of-age adventure and come back as a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
You freaking main character, you.
You freaking low life of a main character. Let's talk about how the setting does its science fiction. So the intentions of John Masker and Clements, when they were making this film, they said they wanted to avoid the cold steel and basically the lonely feeling of whatever science fiction has done in the past.
Well, it makes sense. It's a sprawling pirate adventure in space.
So essentially, all the technology and everything you see in the film was made with the sole intention that they wanted to basically make everything look larger than life and feel much more warmer to the audience.
Yes, we have a really nice looking retro-futuristic interpretation of mid-18th century available technology, if you will.
Yeah.
With some more liberal interpretation of other elements, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not steampunk.
Nope.
It is retro-futuristic, as in a savvy mixture of elements from the past with elements from the future. We had traditional-looking 17th century ships, but they have gravity fields, combustion engines.
Yeah.
Some would say it's a bit distracting and too contrasting. I'd say it works for the very specific aesthetic of the film. I wish that the world and the universe that these characters and this interesting technology happen to inhabit would have been more developed, visually and otherwise, because it feels like something is missing. It feels like we've gotten half of the package, but
I know what
half
you mean.
is missing.
Doesn't seem to get enough information. It's like it gives you the bare minimum to just accept that
Mind
that's
you,
how it
you
works.
don't need to explain anything, especially you don't need to explain anything in technobabble exposition dialogues.
Oh no, that
I'm
was
just
not-
saying that for all that they show, and they show quite a bit, they could have shown more, or at least they could have framed it in such a manner that it felt like an organic part of the narrative rather than just there for the sake of being there. it bothers me a little bit. I think this film should have been 2 hours long. At least
Compared to
1
back
hour
then.
and 40 minutes. I think those 10 minutes more could have made a huge difference, especially in developing some of the side characters which are supposed to be important to the story, because, again, I reiterate, every character who's not either Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver is criminally underdeveloped and underutilized.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, then, that they completely nailed the central relationship of this film, at the
Oh,
very
yes.
least. Every version, every iteration of Treasure Island has that specific relationship in the forefront, as I've already established. Well, except for the Bulgarian one,
Yeah.
there is nothing going on at any given time between the characters in that film. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
But yes, every version, every other version of Treasure Island that I have seen focuses on that specific encounter and that specific dynamic. Specifically how Jim Hawkins is wary of Long John Silver at the beginning because he is clearly the man he was warned about, the man
Yeah.
with one leg, or in this case the cyborg, because it's
Yeah.
futuristic, so we have to have a cyborg.
Yeah, the one with the cyborg hand.
Yes, he's suspicious and wary of him, but then he lowers his guard and he eventually ends up viewing him as a surrogate father figure.
Yeah, they had a few nice scenes here and there, I think.
Yes,
in that
that's
film.
present in every version. I especially remember with fondness the Muppets Treasure Island version, the one that had Tim Curry as Long John Silver. And it was there as well. When it comes to Silver, that's even more interesting because since most of the story of the book is told from the perspective of Jim, we don't quite know if Silver was affectionate towards the boy or somewhere along these lines. It is usually left to interpretation.
Yeah.
Many of said interpretations would have Silver actually being pretty unredeemable from start to finish.
Right.
Not the Disney version, though.
Oh, no.
No.
I like to talk about Long John Silver because in this version, he's very charming.
They went all out in making Silver the most sympathetic and flawed character they could possibly make. I was surprised about this at the time because knowing Disney's track record up until that time, I was expecting them to have a fully evil Long John Silver. It made sense. He would have been a diabolical villain, and Jim Hawkins would have foiled him somehow, and his arc would have worked regardless, because at the end of the story, Jim lets go of John. He literally lets go John, and by doing that, he figuratively lets go of his father issues.
Yeah.
Thus proving that he has matured as an individual. Something like that happens in this version as well, but the context for it is a bit different in a good way. They decided instead, refreshingly, to portray John Silver as a legitimate surrogate father figure.
Yeah.
If you read a lot between the lines, the way he's portrayed, he is what Jim Hawkins could have become if he was consumed by one obsession.
Yeah, which in this case was the treasure of,
Yes. And on
Captain Flint.
And on the other hand, Long John clearly sees himself in young Jim, a younger version of himself, one with dreams and aspirations, yet to be tainted by the cruelty of life. Now, all of this, it is not openly stated or said in the film, but that's the beauty of it. It's hidden between the lines, in between the way these characters interact with each other, the physical language, the beautiful character animation. There are plenty of moments that mean a lot from an emotional standpoint. And it's great. It's all good.
Yes, definitely is great how it all comes together.
And it's especially good considering what they changed about Jim's story. And this is important.
Yeah, because I did not read the original book.
Well,
sadly,
I
so
read it. It was more than 20 years ago, mind you, but I will never forget the key points.
yeah,
Jim has father issues. It's the driving force of his character. It's what motivates him, finding his own path and somehow get over his own issues. In the book, his father dies of an illness,
Right.
more or less around the time in which Billy Bones is already frequenting the Benbow Inn, and then he dies as well. So it's trauma on top of more trauma.
right.
In the Disney version, they did something different, something that I like even more. His father did not die, which, for Disney, it's such a novel, such a novel concept, parents not dying. No, he did not die. Instead, he left.
Yeah, he just upped and left.
Jim develops abandonment issues. So he clearly blames himself for his father leaving, even though it's not openly stated, but that's what abandonment issues are all about.
Yeah.
So there is this beautiful moment in the central portion of the film, the aforementioned musical montage, right?
Lovely musical montage.
Yes. And I wanna blaze the puppy line. Yes, that beautiful moment. And what do you think you'd understand? I'm a boy, no, I'm a man, etc.
Yeah.
That is a very good sequence because it showcases him getting closer to Long John Silver as the journey proceeds, in parallel to the journey of his own growth.
Yeah.
But there is this one moment in the montage in which Jim sees John taking the boat to go take a ride outside in the stars because the ship is literally a spaceship. But
yes.
It looks like a traditional ship, that's the gimmick. He sees him leaving with the boat, and he flashes back to when his father left. In a boat. In a real boat. On
Yeah.
the sea. But then he sees John coming back, and invites him to join him in the boat.
Yeah.
And it is such a great moment. It's Jim learning to trust people again. It's Jim on his way to heal from his trauma. Well, at least before he learns what John's true intentions are, along with the not pirate crew that came with him.
Yeah.
And then cut to the ending when Long John actually leaves on the very same boat.
Yeah.
John actually invites him to come with him, but Jim refuses because he wants to carve his own path. Similarly to the book, that is the moment in which Jim has truly grown up as a character, as an individual. He has gotten over his trauma, his abandonment issues, and is now ready to live life anew. By letting go of John, he lets go of his father. But at the same time, John has also become a better father than his actual father could have ever been. One last thing before I concede you the word, because I realize I've been talking too much.
No, it's okay.
Long John also had a similar scene moments before this one in the climax of the film in which he had to let go of his own lifelong obsession with the treasure in order to save his surrogate son, which he had legitimately come to view as someone important to him. I love these two contrasting yet similar arcs, and I love this relationship that basically makes the film.
Yeah, I really like it as well. The characters definitely have complemented each other with the similarities and the contrasting between such different scenarios, but both coming back to trust.
They are both different versions of each other. They also have similar character quirks, as a very specific scene demonstrated when they first met each other. They have a sensible side to them. The difference is that John is the product of a lifetime of wrong decisions, finally redeeming himself, while Jim has his entire life before him, but he was just about to make wrong decisions based on his own personal issues that he was not able to get over because he was a teenager. Let us remind you that Jim is basically a kid.
Yeah, he's about 15, I believe, in this film.
Yes, and honestly is one of the most sympathetic and likable teenage protagonists I've seen ever. He could have easily been intolerable.
Yeah, because, he starts off as the troubled,
As a rebel without a cause.
goes
Yes.
on his solar flyer, going across CGI expanses and causing damage.
Getting arrested by robot cops.
Yeah.
Worrying his mother, who
Yeah.
does not know what to do with him anymore because it has been hard being a single mother to a kid with abandonment issues. And then there is Jim feeling awfully guilty for what he's putting his mother through. I do like the relationship between him and his mother, by the way. This is all about him and Silver, but that bit at the beginning
Yeah.
about him and his mother and what they are both going through emotionally and psychologically, that was good, and I wish there was more of it.
Yeah, would be nice if there was more of her.
I would have loved that she joined him in his journey, but let's be honest, her presence would have undermined his character growth.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, because she would have been there at every single moment to be a distraction from his bonding with Silver.
So it's probably for the best, really, that they needed the time apart.
Yes, she is not there simply because by design she cannot be there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to say about this film? Oh! Yes, of
Yeah?
course! How could I ever forget him?
Which character we're talking about now?
The Martin Short robot.
You mean Ben?
Ben. B-E-N.
The
So Ben...
Yeah, the one character who comes in late in the film.
So Ben, in the original novel, the Hermit Ben was one of the original members of Captain Flint's crew. He was the inspiration, among many others, for Herman Toofrot from
Yeah.
The Secret of Monkey Island.
Yeah.
A old kooky hermit. That's Ben's character, and it's played up to 11 by Martin Short,
Yeah.
whose performance annoys me in ways that are hard to define. I'll be honest with you, Ben, design-wise and performance-wise, he looked like a character that should be in Robots, not in Treasure Island. He should be along an entire cast of incredibly annoying characters, not in a film that's decent.
Yeah. To be honest, Ben's character as a whole felt highly unnecessary, to be honest.
No. They had to have a Ben because it's the character that guides and helps Jim and the survivors.
Yeah, but I guess
towards the treasure.
I guess other than that sort of thing, he didn't really do much other than just be, well, Ben.
Look, they needed the annoying comic relief sidekick, even though they already had the cute, dumb animal mascot in Morph, the shape-shifting alien parrot,
Yes.
and every single other unimportant crew member. They also had to have Martin Short as a loud robot. I did not care for him. I did not care for him at all.
I still stand by. I felt he was unnecessary in the way he was portrayed anyway.
Well, they needed him for his hideout. Otherwise, they could not have had that dramatic standoff with Long John Silver's and his mutinacious crew,
Yeah.
which would eventually lead Jim to board the ship at night and have that one dramatic confrontation with the giant scorpion Spider-Man.
You mean Scorp?
Yes, whomever that was.
Yeah, that would be Scorp. I believe, if you're...
I am very disappointed that he is the closest thing we've had for a proper villain in this film. Because, yes, this is also another sad aspect about the story. There is no proper villain, overarching villain in this story.
No.
Usually that part is relegated to Silver, but it was made too sympathetic, too emotionally sincere right off the bat to be a bad guy.
So basically
So
they had...
you cannot buy for even 1 second that he would be the villain.
Yeah. So essentially they got another character by the name of Scorp, who, as Madhog's already said, is like a scorpion-like looking creature with crab-looking claws.
He looks rather intimidating.
Yeah,
But
and
there
has that
isn't much to
bone.
him.
There's not many scenes with him in it, and he's playing like second fiddle to John
Well, obviously.
for obvious reasons, but then becomes the main antagonist for like 1 or 2 scenes.
I mentioned before the character of George Merry. He was the second
Yeah.
in command, and he eventually leads a mutiny against Silver in many versions I've seen. So he could have been that character, and he could
probably
have
was.
been the main villain. But instead, he was dealt with early on compared to when the climax happens.
Yeah.
Inside the planet, with the loot of 1,000 worlds. It looks fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the overall size of the treasure. Well, the amount, I should say.
If I am being honest, I am sad that Captain Flint had to be dead in order for this story to happen, because the few seconds he was on screen at the very beginning of the film,
Yeah.
I think his design was very good. He could have been such a believable and threatening villain if he were to be present in this film. Also, apparently he's voiced by Peter Cullen, which went uncredited. We could have had Captain Optimus Prime as the antagonist.
Oh gosh.
Captain Flint could have been a great villain, judging by his design alone.
Yeah.
He was the one who amassed the treasure that people are after.
Yeah.
He created the MacGuffin, and that's all that he is important for. He's the driving force of the narrative, but he is not actually a character.
No.
Not really.
Not really. It just caused the situation that sets into motion the entire story.
Yes, by being the most feared and revered pirate of all time. He was the king of the pirates. We have to find the One Piece, guys.
He left it all there in one piece.
What do you think One Piece takes inspiration from?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
I don't know, a treasure to be found. Oh, gee, where have I heard that before? So, we did not fully spoil the plot of this film for you. We did not go on a point-by-point analysis like the other one. Mostly because I think this film deserves to be seen. I think this film deserves to be rediscovered.
Yeah.
It's fine, mostly, but it does one element really well. And for that reason, I think it's worth rediscovering.
Yeah, for those reasons, I would definitely say this film is a very nice science fiction pirate adventure, so to speak.
Actually, going back to our previous somewhat vague assessment about its setting, I think I know what the problem is with the setting, with the science fiction setting.
Yeah.
It doesn't really add that much to the narrative. I mean, sure, there is a point in the film in which they come across a
Black hole.
but it's merely the science fiction equivalent of a storm in open sea.
Yeah, or the whirlpool.
The whirlpool, exactly. There is a point in which they open a passage through teleportation to the center of the planet, which also links to other worlds, which I guess served the purpose of a quick plot escape, literal plot escape, but the narrative is pretty much the very same that it has always been, for the most part. The science fiction aspect is there, but it does not feel like it's a part of the story. It's incidental to the story. It's tangential to the story. There are a few times here and there in which they do something creative with the technology they have, like Jim playing around with his retro-futuristic hoverboard.
Yeah.
But as far as the plot, the main plot, it's a gimmick setting.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Pretty
That's
much.
the problem. It's a gimmick setting.
Mm.
I think this film might have been more successful if it were set in the original time, in the original time period. I am not saying that I dislike the science fiction environment and the special effects, how everything is portrayed. I am merely saying that aside from looking impressive and pretty, all of that is not really part of the Treasure Island, or Treasure Planet, if you will, story.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I don't know how they could have better implemented the setting within the narrative without compromising the narrative, but this was not it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine enough as it is, but, you know,
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It doesn't get in the way of the narrative.
I guess that's good. At least it does not get in the way. It's not terribly distracting.
It's not very invasive, yes. So you'll be forgiven if you forgot that you're in a spacefaring adventure.
But at the very least, they have gotten the central relationship of the story perfectly, I dare say. I have never seen a version of that particular dynamic between Jimbo and Long John Silver, voiced by Brian Murray, by the way.
Yeah.
I never seen that particular dynamic portrayed in such an emotionally sincere manner, the way Disney did. Which was refreshing, to say the least.
It was very different and lovely for those reasons. Yes.
This film is worth watching just because of that. And also because John Silver is a riot. As an all-around character, John Silver is the MVP of this film.
Yeah, I actually did like him the most in the film. He's got a lot of character, lots of personality, very charming.
He's also a cyborg, as we mentioned, so he has parts of him that are CG mechanics. There are parts of him that are mechanical in nature, but they look really good on him.
Yeah,
even if they are CGI.
Like in the first scene that you see him in, he's cutting up a lot of stuff, and you can see how his mechanical hand is at work.
Yes.
In the kitchen, and it looks fantastic.
Yes, even to this day, it looks pretty good.
So I was sold on him instantly.
Which is good, because if you're not sold on him and Jim, then this film would have been a complete failure for you.
Yes, because otherwise you had no one else.
Yes. Well, I would have watched a film about Captain Amelia, because she's great, and she could have used so much more screen time and scenes altogether.
I wish that could have been a thing, really. It's too bad that they spent so much money on this film, including, the marketing. With all the marketing they went through and, so much wasted money, they basically ended up making a flop of itself, meaning they could not make a sequel to this even if they wanted to.
I don't want Disney sequels, period, but yes, I see what you mean.
Yeah, because I mean, I wouldn't have watched this proposed sequel.
You can't make a sequel of Treasure Island. What sort of preposterous arrogance is that? Are you kidding me?
Well, I read this. Apparently, there was a proposed sequel they wanted to make where Jim, another character by name of Kate or something, and Long John Silver would team up to stop Ironbeard from freeing some sort of prisoners from a long lost planet or something. I actually forgot what it was called.
I can see it now. Made for TV budget, direct to DVD marketing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mwah.
I would not have gone for that. I would have gone for a side story sort of thing with Amelia.
Although I'll say this.
Yeah.
Treasure Island might be its own story, its own self-contained adventure that does not need sequels.
Yeah.
However, the science fiction setting of this particular film could have used a bit more of expansion and expanding in general. So more stories set in said universe would have been fine by me.
Yes.
As long as they are not Treasure Island. They could have been, I don't know, other books by Robert Louis Stevenson. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea Stars. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Jupiter, I don't know. Something like that. You could have remade every book by Stevenson into a story set in this fictional universe. Imagine that.
I think that would be really cool if they did that, take all the stories and put it in this one sci-fi universe.
Or maybe they could have just left it alone because it was a flop. So that's the end of that.
Yeah, at least it has a cult following though, at least.
A cult following, but I mean, every Disney film has a cult following. That's not really saying much. Even Pocahontas, I'm sure, even Pocahontas, that massive stinker, might have a cult following. I'm sure of that.
The Black Cauldron for sure has a cult following, I think.
I would take the Black Cauldron over Pocahontas any day of the week.
Oh boy, I really like the Black Cauldron, to be honest.
It's the poor man Lord of the Rings with a pig.
Yes, I mean, I still like it, for what it is. But anyway, that's another film for another night.
Maybe, or maybe not.
Maybe
anyway,
not.
That's all we have to say about the Treasure Planet. And
Yes,
honestly,
and,
we've been podcasting about it far longer than I thought we were going to initially.
Yeah, me too, actually.
No, alas, you can stop us. You cannot stop us.
Yeah, I think we can call this a night with this movie.
We are the unstoppable podcasting pirates. After all, when you see the things they never see, all you wanted I could be, now you know me, and I'm not afraid. And I want a moment to be real. Wanna touch things I don't feel. Wanna hold on and feel I belong. I love that song, by the way.
I couldn't tell.
even at the time of the original theatrical release in Italy, when it was dubbed over by a local singer, I still enjoyed it so much because the bass was so strong.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this has been our review of Treasure Planet, the decent one.
Yes, the
watchable one. Final thoughts? It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine for what it is.
It's fine for what it is, indeed. So, let me position myself like Captain Planet. So, you've reached the end of this podcast. It's time for the plugging. You can follow me on Twitter at Adriano Bordoni1, and you can follow Devar at
Devar Akvaron.
Subscribe to our YouTube channels. Mine's Madhog Die Master.
And I'm the Fellow Bravers Productions.
You can get the audio MP3 files of this podcast of ours on my Patreon at patreon.com/madhog, and you can choose to support us by sharing this podcast around and all of that. I guess that will do it.
Yeah, that will do it.
Next time, we are going back to our hero Chuck Jones to review a film that Devar wanted to talk about in a long time.
Oh yes, I certainly did.
We are going to review The Phantom Toll Booth.
This should be an interesting outing.
You're going to do most of the work this time around.
I'll see what I can do, but you know me and my words.
Well, that is why you have me editing you. Yes. Well, anyway, I have been Madhog Die Master. Arr! What am I saying? Me be
And I have
Captain
been-
Madhog. I been Captain Lemadog Die Master. Arr, arr, arr. With me parrot Devar Kvaran. Arr.
Well, at least it's not tiny.
All right, which one of you turned on the blasted parrot? You don't turn me on, that's for sure. Oh my gosh. Oh, we didn't even talk about Billy Bones in this film.
He dies.
Well,
And-
of course he
well,
dies. He
and
always dies. There
and
isn't a single version of the story in which Billy Bones does not die.
This was the last role the voice actor for Billy Bones actually did.
Oh,
Before
that
his
is
death.
tragically ironic.
Ugh.
Also, he was an iguana man. So
Yeah.
there is that. Also, you'll never get them up, Black Dog!
I'm gonna give you the black spot.
No, not the black spot, Black Dog! Okay, I'll give you the mop. And you know what you can do with the mop? You can shove it where good night, everybody.
Take care, buddy.
I want a moment to be real in the black hole.
Certainly.
Wow! Our podcast is exactly 90 minutes long, like the length of the actual film. That's,
Now it's not anymore, but since we're talking.
I mean, it's not going to be anyway, because I'm going to cut it down significantly and editing it and all the things I do that I am never thanked for. It's an ungrateful job, but somebody has to do it.
Thanks.
Am I right? Thank you. That's nice of you. I was going to do a whole bit in which I pretended to talk to Morph, the stupid, annoying, shape-shifting blob that we didn't even talk that much about. But you ruined it by being kind. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You killed me with kindness. Cause I'm not here. Da 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 da.